All right. So good to be with you and be here. Golly, I love it here. Oh, so good to be here. Wow, so yummy. So, there's a quote from Rumi that I love, and the quote says, "Love is the bridge between you and everything." Love is the bridge between you and everything. Love is like a cosmic energy bridge, right? Between your heart and my heart, and between your heart and their heart, and between your heart and any place you direct your love, right? So, on the subject of bridges, I have a little story. There was a priest and a minister. And they got up one morning to do their seva. They went out to the side of the road. They each had a sign, and the one sign said, "The end is near." And the other one sign said, "Turn around now before it's too late." They're standing at the side of the road. This guy comes driving by. He slows down just long enough to roll his window down and say, "You guys are nuts." And he speeds on before they have a chance to say anything. And about 20 seconds later, they hear screeching tires and then a big splash. And the minister turns to the priest and he says, "Do you think we should just put up a sign that says bridge out instead?" There's a metaphor for bridges that don't work, that aren't built well. It's hard to get across. Okay. But seriously, sometimes in our lives, it feels like the bridge is out, right? With our relations, that love bridge. It can sometimes feel like the bridge is in need of repair, or maybe we need to build new bridges, right? Anybody? And, just like a physical bridge connects two pieces of land, an energetic bridge that's made of the vibration and frequency of love connects us to other hearts. It connects us to nature, connects us to animal beings. It connects us to, most importantly, our source, right? But we need a little bit of love. We need that openness of love to invite that source, to receive it, to feel it, to be filled with consciousness. So when we're in an energy field, we feel happy, right? We feel that all is well. We feel fortified, we feel good. And when we're not feeling that love, we feel disconnected, discombobulated. We feel like things just don't feel right because it's so essential to our being. That love is so essential. So I have another story, full of stories this morning. It's about these two brothers that were farmers, and they had farms adjoining each other. And for many, many years, they worked the land together, and they grew crops together. They shared crops. They shared tools. They had this really beautiful harmony. But one day, they got into a disagreement, and it led to some things being said that shouldn't have been said. And then there was this silence, this stony, cold silence, and this just feeling of hostility. And so for years, they had been living this way. And so one day, there was a knock on the door of the older brother's farm, and he opened the door, and there was a carpenter standing there. And he said, "I'm looking for work. And I got my box of tools. I'm a very skilled carpenter. Do you have any work for me?" And the older brother thought for a minute, and he thought, I do have some work for you. And he walked out in the yard with him, and he said, "See that edge of the farm right there, that creek, that divides me and my brother's land. And we don't get along anymore. And so I'd like you to take that big pile of lumber by the barn and build a wall. Build a wall." Where have I heard that before? An 8-foot wall, so I don't have to see my brother, and I just don't even have to think about him, right? So, so the carpenter said, "I think I see your problem. I'll do my best. I'll do my best." And so the brother said, "I got to go into town when I get home tonight. I'll check on your work." So he goes into town. He comes back, and oh my goodness, what a shock! What a surprise he's in for. He walks out to see the wall that the carpenter's supposed to build. He built a bridge instead across the creek. And he was so surprised, but right as he saw the bridge, there comes his younger brother coming over the bridge, walking over the bridge with tears in his eyes, and he just runs up and he just grabs him and he just hugs him and he says, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You have a much bigger heart than I do that you would build this bridge." And the big brother starts crying, they're crying, and the carpenter's standing there, And so they have this beautiful moment, and then the carpenter gets up, and the big brother says, "Wait, where are you going?" He goes, "I've got to be on my way." And he says, "Well, no, I have other work. I have other work for you." And he goes, "Actually, no, I got to go. There are many more bridges to build." Isn't that a great story? Oh, it makes me cry. I've told it, but I still cry when I tell it. Oh, yeah, because, it's a beautiful teaching on the way that love can move us to forgive, and how love can move us to let go and to heal and do the healing we know is really ours to do and being called for. And, the releasing of blocks in the heart, when we do that, we feel our innate wholeness. We are innately whole and we are innately divine. But, God is love. I would say more than anything else, God is love. So when we're feeling love, we're feeling our divine self. We're feeling right. All is right when we're feeling love. Something I've been personally exploring, I think I shared at the concert, many of you, that my mom passed 4.5 months ago. And gosh, it's been such a journey of the deepest grief I've ever felt, but also just profound transformation. And I have been finding that love, it feels like it even dissolves the boundaries between the world of form and formless, in ways that I have never fully explored like I am more recently. I find that if I get really still and I get really open, I can feel her consciousness. And I get messages, I feel her presence. So I think I'm realizing on a deeper level that consciousness is not limited. It's not limited to space or time or physicality. And that's really been my study. That's what I've been really interested in lately, more than I ever have. Irvin Laszlo. Anybody a fan of Irvin Laszlo? I have become a huge fan of his. He's a quantum physicist. He's a philosopher. Most importantly, he's a great pianist. He played Carnegie Hall. He's so good. He's like 92, and he's still writing books, and he's giving interviews, and he is amazing. He's amazing and so inspiring. He's got a book. I think I got it on the seat over there. It's called Science and the Akashic Field. But so I had heard of the Akashic Field, many years ago. But I finally got all these books, and I've been just getting all these books from all these quantum physicists because they're finding out what the sages were writing 4,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. So Irvin Laszlo's Akashic Field theory is, Akasha is based on the word sky. It's a Sanskrit word that means sky. And so it's this field that's kind of a living record of everyone's life that has ever lived and every experience they've ever had and every bit of love they've ever felt. You know how we save everything to the cloud, right? So it's a cosmic cloud. It's way bigger than, our digital cloud. But that's kind of how you can conceive of it. And, this makes sense to me. It makes sense to me with what I've been experiencing directly. Because, when you tap into, say you meditate on Jesus or you meditate on Buddha, right? And you tap into living consciousness, right? You can tap into it, And to me, that's because it exists in this Akashic field. It's like this big repository of life, of every life that's ever been lived. So I think this is especially possible with people we love, that we love deeply. I really feel it with Mom. I've always been really psychic with my mom, and she had a metaphysical center in Gainesville, Florida, in the 80s. And she was my first teacher. I mean, she's the first one that said, you create your reality with your thoughts, right? With your energy and your thoughts. She was the first one to tell me that. So she did a lot of work on her consciousness and also just developing the ability to connect beyond the senses, beyond just physical. So I had a really profound experience the day Mom died, the night Mom died. The day she died, she was in an ambulance. I was following her to the hospital. They wouldn't let me get in the ambulance. And I knew the moment she left her body. She left her body in the ambulance, 4:49, June 23rd. I knew the moment. But what was interesting was after I was at the hospital with her for a number of hours, when I finally went home, I felt her presence. And I felt this life review. They say, now I've read all these near-death experience books, and everybody has this life review. But I felt Mom have this life review, and I felt like I was privy. I got to watch it with her. And the thing about it is that it felt like there was no ego, like that filter of the ego, the ego that just can't see if you've ever made a mistake. Like that was removed. And so there was just clear seeing. But there was all this love. There was this enormity of love. And I just felt like we watched, her life. I watched my parts that I could have done better. And I was like, oh, Mom, I'm sorry, and I felt her, oh, of course you're already forgiven. And I kept reminding her she was forgiven for the things that she wished she could have done better. And we were just surrounded by all this love. And we did this review. And I really saw that, we're already forgiven. And that, as long as we learn, that's why you get that review. As long as you look and you see, okay, I can do better. I'll do better, next time. And I carry that wisdom, what I learned, I carry that with me. And so to me, it's like then that gets added to the Akashic field or the great all it is. And I felt with Mom, like at the end of the review, I felt like she took her life and everything she ever felt and every bit of love and every struggle and every bit of suffering, and she handed it over to like the great love, the great life of all that is, or God, whatever you want to call it. And that great love just took it as if it was the most precious gift that could ever be given. And so it made me see that every one of our lives, each one of us, it matters so much. And the unique way that you experience consciousness and you learn and you grow, you add that, you bring that. And then the God that we are is ever expanding. The consciousness is ever expanding. So these are just, pearls of wisdom from the deepest grief and also the deepest alchemy. I think grief puts you through an amazing kind of alchemy, and you come out the other side and you have more compassion than you ever had. Your heart is wider. My heart really feels wide from this whole experience. But let me read you what Irvin Laszlo says about what I'm talking about. This is a quote from his book. Consciousness is continually present in the cosmos and can exist without connection to a living organism. In other words, any existence is not gone, not disappeared once it's out of physical form. It's just changed. Einstein, okay, so Laszlo's quoting Einstein. Einstein said, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. Isn't that just something fascinating to contemplate? I love that. So I've been going through Mom's things, you know how that goes, and I found some journals, and I've been reading them. And I'm going to make you cry. I know that's okay. Crying is good. It's it's releasing, it's letting go. But anyway, I found one thing she wrote that I love. She wrote, "My highest option, it seems to me, is to love unconditionally, like God loved." I just love that. And then another journal entry, there was a letter she wrote me that she never gave me. It was in the journal. And it was about this disagreement we had had, you know, and she was actually expressing a lot more love than I remember from that disagreement. So she was like, someday she's going to read this. And she writes a PS, "My emotions, the little me gets in the way. I love you." And, you know, that right there is the human dilemma for all of us, isn't it? I just thought, God, that's it. You know, we all know our highest life is to love unconditionally. But, you know, the little me, the egoic self gets in the way. Although you guys here are highly advanced. Is anybody still dealing with the little me? Okay. I feel better. I'm not the only one. But it is the story of humanity, you know, it really is. You know, we want to be the love we are, but we still have places in us that are wounded and that are needing more healing and that are needing more love and needing more exploration, right? You know, reviewing Mom's life, especially those young years, she was so innocent, you know, and she was so loving, and she got hurt, you know, and she created kind of a tough veneer, kind of a protective shield to survive, just to survive. And our Earth School assignment, though, is the work of healing and letting that go. And to be able to be a healing force, we have to have love flow through us, right? So we have to release the blockages that get built up. So I want to just look under that rock a little bit and explore that little me that gets in the way sometimes, and that, you know, what creates the blockages. Our heart is like a great energy center. It's this magnificent energy center. It's so beautiful, and it regulates energy flow. And, you know, like Friday night, given that concert, I mean, those kind of experiences for me, when my heart is that open, it's like I get filled with light, I get filled with joy. I can't sleep. But it's a good awakefulness. But my first teacher, Michael Singer, some of you might have read The Untethered Soul. I met him when I was 15, and he was my teacher for years before anyone had ever heard of him. He lived in Gainesville, Florida. But he said that the heart controls the energy flow by opening and closing. And of course, we know very well what it feels like when it's open. And we also know what it feels like when it's closed, right? We might be feeling wide open, we're with our beloved, but then they say something we don't like. And then we feel this pinch, ouch, right? It's kind of almost like a heart pinch. And that's like this little painful blocked place. So our ongoing evolution depends on our ability to become skillful and have, you know, energy move through us without getting stuck. You know, there's a word in Sanskrit. I'm more versed in probably Hindu philosophy than anything. There's a word, samskaras. Have you heard that word? And it's so perfect that scar is in there, because samskaras are blocked energy. They're like blocked energy. They can be created by a conditioning, by an old pattern. And they block energy flow. And so, you know, our work is learning to kind of unravel those knots, those blocks in the heart. In my retreats, I do a triggers workshop, and everyone seems to love those triggers workshops. I guess, we just love to have tools, what to do when we're triggered. Because what triggering is that, there's something that's blocked that hasn't been taken care of, and it's been there a long time. It's like a lot of scar tissue. And then something hits it, and your response is way overblown, right? Commensurate with what happened, and that's because of this blocked energy that's already there. It gets hit. So, with my, just triggers workshops, just to sum it up, I have everybody become conscious when they're triggered. They notice it. They take space appropriately, and then they shift their state. And that shifting is really how we let go, how we breathe into and we let go of that block energy so more blockage doesn't build up. But Michael Singer writes it. He writes it this way. He says, learn to be centered enough to just watch this stuff come up. Stop fighting the stored energy patterns. Let them come up. Be willing to feel that pain for a minute or so and release it. We can purge our energy body just like we purge our physical body of bacteria and waste. We can purge the stored patterns from our heart. Does that make sense? Yeah, and it's something we have to do regularly. That's what I mean about letting go. Many times a day. My mom was always the very best person in the world to trigger me. Anybody else? And her throughout our whole lives. But we did so much work on this, and especially in our last 10 years. That's why I'm so grateful she lived to 88, because I feel like you can grow at any age. And yeah, she had an aorta tear like in 2011, but she lived another 12 years, and that's when I think we did our deepest work, She might not have been getting out around as much, but we were doing deep work. We were learning how to love each other more and more openly. So love really is the bridge. It is the bridge, and it connects us no matter our form. And yeah, I would say in closing that I'd like to remind you all that your life is so precious. That's what I'm so aware of now. That's why I'm doing my dream. I'm just doing it. I feel Mom saying, do it. Do it now. Life is so precious. And I feel like we're not only learning and growing for ourselves. That's the amazing thing. I mean, if we're aware we're growing for ourselves, but we're adding everything we learn, every bit of wisdom that we gain, it gets added to the great repository of this ever-expanding life, this living consciousness. So, just reminding you that loving unconditionally and finding a myriad ways to express love, no matter what it is, that is our highest life. That's the highest life we can live. Let's build bridges. Let's build bridges. Our world needs a lot more bridges, a lot more love bridges between your heart and my heart and everyone's heart. Reminds me of that song, The Judds. I should have learned that song for today. Do y'all know that one? Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you. Mwah.